I'm calling to order this hearing. This is a public hearing of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. I'm Phil Mendelson, Chairman of the Council and Chair of the Committee of the Whole. Today is Thursday, June 24th, 2021. The time is 12:06 in the afternoon, and this hearing is being conducted virtually, live via the Zoom video conference broadcast platform, as well as the Chairman's website, which is www.chairmanmendelson.com/live. This hearing is also being recorded and will be available to the Council's website, which is www.dccouncil.us. This is actually the first of three hearings that the Committee of the Whole is having today. The first hearing, this one is on PR 24-229, Zoning Commission Robert Miller Confirmation Resolution 2021. This hearing will be followed immediately by a second hearing on 4 nominations submitted by the mayor for appointment or reappointment to the Historic Preservation Review Board. And finally, the third hearing that the Committee of the Whole is having today, which will immediately follow the 2 preceding hearings, is on PR 24-238 concerning the installation of a statue in front of the African American Civil War Museum on Vermont Avenue. But the subject at hand is considering the mayor's nomination for reappointment to the Zoning Commission of Robert Miller. The stated purpose of this resolution, PR 24-229, as I just said, is to confirm the reappointment of Robert Miller to the Zoning Commission. The Zoning Commission is charged with preparing, adopting, and subsequently amending the zoning regulations and zoning map for the District of Columbia in a means not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan for the national capital. The Zoning Commission also considers a variety of zoning cases, such as planned unit developments, campus plans, and the Zoning Commission may consider sua sponte Board of Zoning Adjustment cases. The purpose of this hearing today is to receive testimony from government and public witnesses as to the fitness of this nominee for reappointment to the Zoning Commission. I want to note that the appointment is for, I believe, a 4-year term. See if I can find the legislation. For a term to end February 3rd, 2025. We have 3 witnesses, including the nominee. I'll recognize the first 2 witnesses. Paul Tummins, who is an attorney with Goldston and Storrs, and Cheryl Court, who is with the Coalition for Smarter Growth. Mr. Tummins, do you want to begin?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman Mendelson. As you mentioned, my name is Paul Tummins. I'm a director at Goldston and Storrs. I am pleased to present our strong and unqualified support for the reappointment of Robert Miller to the Zoning Commission. My colleagues and I at Goldston are truly thankful that Mr. Miller is seeking to extend his long history of service to the residents of the District of Columbia and to continue to serve in this very important position. Public service on the Zoning Commission plays an important role in making the District of Columbia a thriving and vibrant place to live, work, and play for both existing and future residents. This service can at times appear to be a thankless job. It includes long hours of preparation before hearings, long evenings of testimony and presentations, and then considered attention to often voluminous information submitted into the record of this case. In his almost 9 years on the commission, Mr. Miller has steadfastly served the best interests of the District of Columbia through knowledgeable, fair, even-handed, and diligent evaluation of all cases that come before the Zoning Commission. Mr. Miller carefully considers all points of view and ensures that issues and concerns are fully addressed in a meaningful and enforceable way before making any decision. We also wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Miller's written statement that, quote, his tenure on the Zoning Commission has demonstrated a skill set and temperament that both supplements and fits well with his colleagues on the Commission. We believe that this is an important factor in allowing the Commission to continue to be an effective and well-run administrative body, and we fully expect that that will occur in the future. In conclusion, the residents of the District of Columbia, the executive and the council, and the DC real estate development community will continue to be very well served with Mr. Miller's reappointment to the Zoning Commission. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Tummins. Ms. Court.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Cheryl Court, and I'm representing the Coalition for Smarter Growth. We are the leading nonprofit organization in the DC region advocating walkable, bikeable, inclusive, transit-oriented communities as the most sustainable and equitable way for the DC region to grow and provide opportunities for all. We're here to express our support for Robert Miller's reappointment to the Zoning Commission. I have known Mr. Miller and his work for many years and have always admired his long commitment to serving the public. He's always focused on using his knowledge and experience to best serve the public interest. Mr. Miller has always demonstrated interest and respect for all public input in the land use decision-making process. He has shown specific concern that the development review process and zoning decisions make the city a more inclusive city, especially for low-income residents. He seeks out ways to create more affordable housing where it's possible. I want to also acknowledge the entire Zoning Commission, with Mr. Miller first among them, for their commitment to expanding inclusionary zoning, to use the tools that they have at their disposal to provide as much affordable housing as possible within the realm in which they're working. Mr. Miller and the community have really sought to expand and stretch and use every sort of plausible zoning tool to support greater affordability. As for his qualifications, perhaps no one is more qualified than Mr. Miller as someone who has worked on DC's comprehensive plans since almost the beginning, starting with Dave Clark in the 1980s, and has continued to work in public interest land use policy over the decades and is now an experienced zoning commissioner. What DC needs is people like Mr. Miller, who are thoughtful, concerned, and well-prepared commissioners to pay attention to the details and ensure that we're meeting the larger goals of creating and sustaining a truly inclusive city. We think that Mr. Miller is an excellent choice for this responsibility. I also wanted to note that Mr. Miller has sought to ensure that zoning orders conform to the Court of Appeals expectations, which has been a challenge over the last few years. But I just wanted to note that one of these or two of these plan unit developments that have recently come into play is the challenge Bruce Monroe plan unit development, but actually the unchallenged Park Morton, which is now up before the council for a potential kind of withdrawal from the existing plan and switch to something else. We hope that the council will really examine that and ask that the council work with the mayor to put that Park Morton plan back on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Court, and thank you, Mr. Tummins. Mr. Tummins, I don't think we have a copy of your statement.
Okay, I'm sorry. I submitted it to the COW@dccouncil.us email yesterday. I'll make sure that gets put in the record again.
All right, and maybe if I slow enough in talking to you, I'll find out whether we got it.
Okay.
Otherwise, resend it if you would. I also want to note, just in jest, that when you comment on the burden on the zoning commissioners to deal with voluminous paper and filings and so forth, I suspect you're responsible for some of that.
Well, it is, as Ms. Court mentioned, important to make sure that there is a fulsome record that can be shown to the DC Court of Appeals.
Yes. It turns out we do have your statement, Mr. Tummins. Ms. Court, I didn't understand at the end. This was not directly concerning Mr. Miller, but what were you saying with regard to Park Morton?
Oh, well, we're deeply concerned that the mayor seems to be proposing to abandon the Park Morton plan unit development, which has, gone on has a community planning process for years, and they're about to break ground. They're pulling the permits now. HUD has approved the demolition. So it would be a big delay and basically throw Park Morton residents to a lot more uncertainty if all of a sudden, as is proposed by the mayor, that we're not going to do the Park Morton plan as we've all approved, gone through the process and agreed to.
So you would like us to continue with the council to continue its support for the redevelopment as we have been approving over the last several years?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're alarmed that all of a sudden, with no real explanation, the administration is suggesting they want to do something else.
Yeah. I think that was a surprise when that was revealed to the council when the budget was presented on May 27th. I do not have other questions for either of you. Thank you, each of you, for your testimony, and it will be included in the record. I forgot to mention this earlier. The record will close at 5 p.m. on July 8th. We're going to try to, assuming that there isn't sudden opposition, which we don't see, we're going to try to move this favorably on July 13th at our legislative meeting. So thank you to each of you. Let me call Mr. Miller now, who is the nominee. Rob Miller. When you're ready, good afternoon. It's nice to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to see you as well. We've had a year of over a year of virtual zoning commission meetings and hearings, but I've never been on this side of the virtual experience. So I was a little bit nervous about how that would work. And we use WebEx at the zoning commission. I think you use Zoom and other platforms, which is great. Anyway, let me begin my testimony.
Well, if you want us to make you nervous, we can try, but you've been around a while, so I think that'll be different.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Mendelson, council members and staff, and the public. My name is Rob Miller, and I am pleased to testify before you today to respectfully request the council support for my confirmation as a member of the Zoning Commission for the District of Columbia. I'm extremely honored and humbled that Mayor Bowser has nominated me once again for reappointment to the Zoning Commission. I am also very appreciative of remarks on my behalf by persons today whom I admire and respect, and with whom I've had the pleasure to work over many years. My sincere thanks to you and to them for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this public hearing. Since 1980, it's a long time ago, my professional life's work has been devoted almost entirely to public service on behalf of the residents of the District of Columbia. I would like to continue to make a positive difference in the district, my hometown, especially in support of land use policies and mixed income neighborhood development projects, which help grow a more inclusive city. This overarching inclusionary goal means striving in incrementally, but I think cumulatively progressive ways to create more pathways to the middle class for more DC residents in an important effort to achieve more racial and economic equity throughout all 8 wards of the city. As a member of the Zoning Commission for nearly 9 years now, and having served as vice chair under the excellent and longstanding leadership of Zoning Commission Chairman Anthony Hood, I believe that I have continued to establish a solid record of responsible and responsive membership on the commission. I have continued to listen and learn very much during my experience on the Zoning Commission, and still look forward to continuing to listen and learn more from my colleagues, from the many civic-minded residents, ANCs, and other organizations who have testified before the Commission and the Board of Zoning Adjustment, from the public and private sector applicants who have presented cases before us, and from the many officials who have provided us with professional advice from the Office of Planning, the Office of Zoning, the Office of the Attorney General, and from DDOT, DOEE, DEMPED, DHCD, the DCRA Zoning Administrator, and other district and federal agencies, including, I might add, the occasional member or chairman of the DC Council. My approach to each zoning case in which I have participated, both at the Zoning Commission and at the BZA, when I'm the rotating commission representative there, has been first and foremost to respect the law and regulations which apply to each case. This approach includes considering carefully the views of both proponents and opponents who testify before us or submit comments. It is essential, of course, to deliberate and decide cases in a manner which is lawful and fair, factoring in many diverse interests and articulating and mitigating potential adverse impacts that are often at stake. I believe that my tenure on the Zoning Commission has demonstrated a skill set and temperament that both supplements and fits well with my colleagues on the commission and warrants the council's confirmation of my reappointment to this body. As a mayoral appointee on the Zoning Commission, who has previously held policy staff positions within the executive office of the mayor and the council chairman's office for a long time, I bring a unique perspective on how particular zoning decisions might support the policy agendas of both the council and the mayor. At the same time, as the drafter of former council chairman Dave Clark's legislation that established the Office of Zoning as an independent agency in 1991, I am cognizant that the Zoning Commission is a home rule charter independent entity whose members and staff should not be unduly influenced by either the executive or legislative branch of government. I would like to emphasize that in my opinion, the Zoning Commission has performed well for many years, long before I arrived on the commission, and that it has been a body that has been comprised of thoughtful members who have been administratively staffed by an outstanding group of professional employees in the Office of Zoning led by Director Sarah Barden. Zoning Commission proceedings and records from ongoing and past cases have been open and accessible to the public, both in person or virtually during this pandemic last 15 months, and from a user-friendly website. Our deliberations have been conducted in an open, focused, and transparent manner so that participants and the public can understand the issues to be decided and the reasons underlying the decisions that are made. I believe that the Commission has made a good faith effort to be fair to all parties and participants in zoning cases and to identify and include conditions within orders that provide the public with meaningful amenities and benefits, as well as enforceable measures that mitigate against potential adverse impacts upon surrounding communities. I do look forward to continuing to contribute to positive outcomes for the district as a member of the Zoning Commission. One of the biggest challenges during my time on the Zoning Commission, Mr. Chairman, relates directly to the fundamental role and mission of the Commission. That is how to balance appropriately the many important and sometimes competing objectives and policies set forth in the comprehensive plan. Because as you pointed out, the district's home rule charter requires zoning to be, quote, not inconsistent with, unquote, the comprehensive plan. As you know, several of our past zoning orders, particularly planned unit development orders, have been challenged in the courts, sometimes successfully, delaying for years housing and economic development projects initiated or supported not only by the Zoning Commission, but also initiated or supported by the mayor and the council and by affected advisory neighborhood commissions. These challenges and delays to major projects have frustrated the aspirations of many district residents and officials and many in the development community. Therefore, we as a commission have assiduously tried in both our more recent deliberations and written orders to do a better job of acknowledging and articulating potential adverse impacts of projects and the necessary mitigating measures required to ameliorate those impacts, and why we are giving greater weight in some cases to some significant policies in the comprehensive plan, such as the creation of more affordable housing, over other significant policies, such as the preservation of the existing character of a neighborhood. It's always about balancing all of those interests, which you're well aware of. In our ongoing efforts to improve the legal sustainability of our decisions, the Zoning Commission very much appreciates the additional resources provided in recent years by the council and the mayor to the Office of Zoning, the Office of Attorney General, and the Office of Planning to enhance the professional advice that we receive, the deliberations and decisions that we make, and the zoning orders that we issue. The commission also appreciates recent amendments by the mayor and the council to the comprehensive plan, both to the framework element last year or the year before, I can't remember, and to the land use and other elements of the comp plan just this past month. I am hopeful that these comp plan amendments collectively have more clearly prioritized the district's goal to preserve and create a greater amount of more deeply affordable housing for residents throughout all 8 wards, while emphasizing the need to accomplish this civic priority in a way that both minimizes displacement and promotes racial and socioeconomic equity. Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to testify before you today. It truly has been an honor and a privilege to serve the public, the council, and the mayor for the past 4 decades. I welcome the challenge to continue my public service to the District of Columbia as a reappointed member of the Zoning Commission, and I am available at this time to address any questions or concerns that you or others may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We had sent you some questions before the hearing and you responded, so thank you for that as well. I do want to ask 2 questions that were in those pre-hearing questions, but I always ask this at hearings. Since you've been a member of the commission, you know how much time is required to participate on the commission. Do you have the time to fully participate?
Yes.
And do you have any outstanding tax liabilities or other debt owed to the district or federal governments?
No, I do not.
And I said 2, but actually there's a third, and that is you've been on the commission for a number of years, so you have some sense of whether cases come before the commission that would present a conflict of interest. Have there been instances, and if there are to be, what would you do?
I don't believe there have been any instances, but if there were, I would disclose the potential or real conflict and recuse myself from such a case. I think I may have switched my BZA participation in a couple of cases where I thought that I was too close to the issue, whether it was in my neighborhood with people I know testifying. I may have just made sure that I was not the rotating member of the zoning commission on a couple of BZA cases when we do a random assignment of those cases so that people aren't commission shopping, so to speak. But so no, there have been no conflicts of interest, and if there were, I would recuse myself and disclose any potential conflict.
Okay. Let me see. I think you touched on in your statement, and I think that this might have been touched on by the witnesses preceding you. There have been appeals of PUDs. I think the number of appeals has diminished. Do you think that the Zoning Commission has figured out how to move forward to reduce the likelihood of appeals, or at least successful appeals?
Yes, I hope that we have. I think we have, with your prodding and others, to articulate more clearly, and with the resources that have been provided to OAG and OZ to, in terms of our legal advice, to make our deliberations and written orders clearer as to both identifying and articulating adverse impacts and the mitigating measures that are required to ameliorate those impacts, and also how we are balancing the various comprehensive plan policies. The court often laid out a roadmap in many of those cases as to how we should do that, and I think we've tried to be better in that whole process, and I think the results are finally coming to fruition.
I should note, I believe that with this budget that's pending before the council now, we will take the final step in ensuring that you have an adequate number of attorneys to assist with writing orders. I know in the past, I'm not sure if it's the zoning commissioner or the BZA, there's been some backlog with orders, issuing orders. And with the additional resources, not only should that backlog be diminished, but I'm hopeful that the orders will be of a better quality.
I am too, and will work hard to make sure that that is the case.
In the recently adopted comprehensive plan amendments, the council emphasized racial equity as an important purpose or goal. And there's some requirements that the zoning commission conduct its work with an eye toward racial equity. Has the commission begun grappling with how to do this?
I followed closely your comprehensive plan deliberations. Old habits are hard to break. Yes, we've asked, it's not yet law, but we've asked the Office of Planning. I think I did at our first meeting after your final vote to provide us with a report on all of the comprehensive, at least a draft report, because there's a lot of changes in that 1,000+ page document. But all of the changes that may impact zoning, particularly the land use consistency, but particularly emphasizing the racial equity lens that we are going to be required to view cases. So we haven't yet come up with that process, but we have begun the process both in terms of our requesting the Office of Planning to provide us how they are going to recommend to us how cases should be viewed through that racial equity lens. And I think we've also asked as our own Office of Zoning staff to also provide us with that process of how we need to do it. But we're very cognizant of that new policy, which I think we've, frankly, even before the court told us in some of those cases that gentrification and displacement and relocation were issues that we need to be looking at. We were looking at them in many cases. I think Chairman Hood has testified that before you, saying that we were looking at it, even though we were told that it was by some that wasn't in our jurisdiction to look into. So we take very seriously that charge, and the process does need to be developed and implemented.
I should note, when we were working on the amendments, we being the council, there was suggestions, some urging that the council through the comprehensive plan be more specific with regard to what the zoning commission should do. And instead, what we did was require that the zoning commission adopt a racial equity lens, which it would then apply to cases. So the flexibility is on you being the commission, and the mandate to come up with the lens by which you would then review or view cases that come before you. You touched on in your answer displacement, and I wanted to ask about that. I do think that displacement is a concept that can have different meanings to people, and it also is a difficult issue to grapple with. It's pretty obvious that if a developer were to come along and take an existing apartment building and say, I want to demolish it and build a new office building, there would be displacement of tenants at the existing apartment building. But I think some of the argument has been that the Zoning Commission needs to look beyond the immediate development site at the larger neighborhood. I think that becomes more difficult. Do we embrace economic revitalization, which can help improve the quality of life in a neighborhood, but may result in values going up and therefore some displacement as a result? Or do we discourage that and leave some neighborhoods the way they are, in which residents are calling for economic vitality that doesn't exist? So how do you look at that, the issue of displacement?
So I think there are a number of ways that I look at it. There's the issue of on-site displacement. It's not very many cases where there's on-site displacement. Most of the, except, I'll get to an exception in a minute, but in most cases, we're talking with long, vacant, often public sites that are being developed for the first time, or redeveloped for the first time in a very long time, extending back decades. But even in those cases, we have asked, or I've asked the applicant to, because we've gotten testimony that this mixed use, even though it was a mixed income development on a long vacant site, I think this was in Southwest along South Capitol Street. I've asked the applicant to provide us with something in the record that shows how property values are or not being increased and displacement is occurring, just to fill out the whole picture of what is happening in the city. And it would happen whether or not there was a zoning case that required our approval or matter of right development. The rising property values for adjacent existing homeowners and renters, it's a reality that I think all cities and communities are grappling with. The on-site displacement has happened mostly, I think, with the long dilapidated, horrible public housing projects that the long ago Mayor Anthony Williams' New Communities Initiative called for replacing with quality, affordable housing for those public housing residents and new public housing residents, one-for-one replacement, and called for build first. And the build first part of it became problematic in some cases because there wasn't enough land to build first, and the infrastructure was so terrible on many of these sites that you had to relocate. And we looked at relocation in some of those cases, some which were challenged successfully, some which weren't. So, but we're aware that that we need to minimize displacement. We need to preserve affordable housing that we have. And increase affordable housing for existing and future residents. And there's a lot of dollars in this budget pending before you devoted to that effort. And I think that's great. The Housing Production Trust Fund increase, the rent supplement increase, the Housing Preservation Fund increase. There's a lot. We can always do more, and we need to do more, obviously. So that's a long rambling answer, but I hope I answered some of your question.
You did. You touched on several aspects of it, and that was helpful. Given your tenure on the Zoning Commission, and even before, when you were working for the mayor, and before that, the council chairman, do you have any observations at this point for what the Zoning Commission could be doing differently or better?
I may have missed what the last thing you might have said. I heard that
observations on what the Zoning Commission could be doing differently or better.
We always can do better. Everyone can always do better, and differently. I think we're trying, as I've said, to acknowledge and articulate potential adverse impacts, not sweep them under the rug, and mitigate them where we can mitigate them, or not approve the change if they can't be, that's being asked for. So I think we're trying to do things differently, and with the resources you've provided, I think we're getting there.
Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't have any other questions for you. I do want to repeat the record in this matter will close at 5 p.m. on July 8th. And we're looking to mark up this resolution at our July 13th meeting. It's possible that could slip because we are in budget season, but that's our goal. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you for your service to date, and for your willingness to continue serving on the Zoning Commission. If there's anything supplemental you want to submit, and I'm not asking you to, you can have till July 8th to do so.
Thank you. And if any comments come in that on the record that might need a response, please let me know of those comments that may come into the record, and then I'll react accordingly.
Okay. Deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you. This is going to conclude this hearing. This has been a hearing on PR 24-229 to confirm the reappointment of Robert Miller to the Zoning Commission of the District of Columbia. Records open until July 8th at 5 p.m. The time is now 12:45 in the afternoon. I'm going to adjourn this hearing and pause a minute, and then we will start the next hearing. It's 12:45. This hearing is adjourned.